going to show you the basic controls for this. There's a lot more you can actually do. So I've got a form design in front of me. You should be able to set up the radio buttons, text box here, and the add button. Let's concentrate on this control. So I've dragged in a list view from my toolbox, and I don't really need that anymore. And if I go right to the top right hand side here, where there is this little play button, I click on it and I can add some details to my list view. Now the difference between the list view and a list box is it comes ready-made with columns. You can set columns up so the data appears in columns and rows. It's a lot easier than the list box to organize data. For this example, I just need 3 columns. So I've clicked on the play button, I press edit columns, and I just add my first column. I'm not going to change the name, I'm just going to put the name of the column. So this is actually, this program is just going to be a simple form for, if you like, sandwich ordering at a sandwich shop or something. So the headings are just going to be the sandwich type to start with. So let's just put sandwich type. This is really the type of bread someone's ordered. Sorry, I'm going to add another one. So I've got sandwich type's my first column. My second column is going to be the filling, what they want inside the sandwich type. And the last thing is going to be the quantity, how much they want of each sandwich. There's lots of other things you could do on here, but let's just keep it simple for the moment. So I've got a 3-column list view. I'm just going to adjust the columns so that I have a little bit more detail for some of the text. Whoops, and a little less detail for the quantity. Let's just leave the quantity over there and put the sandwich type here. Okay, should have prepared it before. Yeah, that's basically it. So I've got 3 columns, sandwich type, filling, and quantity. Now I want to put the code in. And for this tutorial, I've actually supplied you with the code as well. So let me just put the code in already, which I've got ready made. So if you look in the lab for this tutorial, you'll see that the code is already there. So the first thing I'm going to do is, well, let's just do part of it. I'm going to add the code that will have the details for what sandwich type they want. Let's have a look at the form again. This is the sandwich type. They've got 3 radio buttons. They can have bread, baguette, or a roll. Not much of a choice, but it's not much of a sandwich shop. Okay. So I've got if the radio button bread.Checked. Now the interesting thing is if you look at this line here, this is what's different about a list box. Let's just make it a little bit bigger. I've got the name of the control. I've called it LSV, Listview. That stands for order details. So that's this control here. If you look over on the right hand side under the properties, you can see it's called LSV order details. So we're looking at LSV order details.Items.Add. Now that's the same as a list box, and you can see that it's got 3 options. If it's radio button bread, then I just add the value bread, baguette, baguette, and the last one must be roll because there's only 3 options if they haven't chosen the others. That's that bit. Now the bit that's slightly different than the a list box is how we fill these other 2 columns in. Let's just get the code, and then I'll explain it. Let's do this one, and we put the code in. So underneath the first one, so we filled the first column. First of all, it's coming up with an error. Let me just get rid of that. It's got current item. I'll explain that in a moment, but I need to set up a global variable. Do you remember about global variables? Global variables are ones that are available to any subroutine within the form. So I have to define them outside of any subroutine. I put it up at the top, just under the public class bit, what defines the form. Dim CurrentItem As Integer. This is global, so now I'm putting the code in the subroutine. This subroutine is the subroutine for the button. So if I double click on the button, this is the subroutine. And I've got this global variable. So now the error message is gone because it recognized it. Right, let's explain this bit because it is different than the list box. Now what you've got is a list box, you just do add, and it adds a row across the list box. The list view, what we're dealing with at the moment, also adds a row for the first item you add. But then every other column, because we're dealing with columns, is called a sub-item. So what I need to do is say, okay, I'm now adding a sub-item to my row. It doesn't seem to make logical sense, or the wording's not intuitive, but basically what we're saying is sandwich type becomes the new row. So I've added a value in there. Filling and quantity are sub-items within the item called sandwich type. Make a bit more sense when we see it. But if you look here, you've got same thing. The list view, items, sub-items, that's the extra thing, add. So the only difference between this and a list box is SubItems.Add. And then one other thing, this thing. Now you have to say with a list view what row you're dealing with. And they count from 0. So the first row when I get something here, that's row 0, then I've got row 1, row 2, etc. But you have to keep a count of them. So the first time through, I set my row number, my current item, what I'm dealing with, as 0. And then each time I add a complete row, I'm going to increment that by 1. As you can see, I've got a bit of code at the bottom. Let's paste that in. I'm going to put that just before the end of my subroutine. So basically this starts out, first row that's 0, second time round it's 1, second time round 2, you get the idea. So you must put that in. So what this is doing is saying, go to the list view, go to the item, if you like, the current row we're on, but they're called items, add a sub-item, which is another column, and this time cheese in that one particular case. So that's the filling column. And then I have to add another column for the quantity which is actually ordered. And that, let's just get a bit of code for that. Now I've actually got that here. Let's paste that in as well. So just before I increment my row number, what have I got here? Let's make that a bit smaller. So let's see what I've put in. I've got same thing. So this time I'm saying go to the list view, go to the current item, the current row, remember, sub-items because it's another column, and add. And what this means is it just adds, because it's another new sub-item, this is the one that's going to hold the quantity ordered, it just puts it in the third column. That's really it. Let's see it running. I think I've got everything in there, no errors showing, which is a miracle for me, but here we go. So press start. Visual Studio compiles it, and let's try it out. So I click bread, I click a filling, quantity. Oh, we're hungry today. Let's have 10. And voila, it appears in there. Let's try it again. Baguette, chicken. I'll have a little bit less of this. 5. And there you go. I've got that. So it's just adding each thing, item ordered, each time I press the add button. It just adds a new row, and each of the fillings and quantity goes a new column. Okay, have a go at it. You've got the code. Watch this video, stop it when you need to, and generate your own programming using Listview.